Welcome back from blackberry picking. I hope you were able to get a whole bunch of berries, though for this recipe you only really need 1 pint, which is about 2.5 cups, in order to make blackberry breakfast cake. You guys are gonna love this one. First thing you wanna do is preheat your oven to 375. I've already got mine going here behind me. And then you need to spray a 9-inch spring foam pan with cooking spray and then shake it around with flour, coat it probably about a 1/4 cup. Or if you happen to be lucky and have discovered this wonderful product like I have and have a can of Baker's Joy, you can just spray it directly into the pan. So Baker's Joy is a mix of nonstick cooking spray that already has the flour inside it. I'm just gonna give a good coating here, all the way around the edge. Okay, pan is ready to go, and I'm gonna set that to the side, or you can just do it the old-fashioned way. Use some regular nonstick, put your flour in there, shake it around, turn it over the sink, pat it out so the extra dust falls away, and that'll prevent your cake from sticking. All right, you also don't have to technically use a spring foam pan for this recipe. A regular sized cake pan will do. This calls for a 9-inch cake pan or spring foam pan. I happen to have a 10-inch, it's close enough. If you have an 8-inch, just cook it a little longer. Cakes can be forgiving that way as long as you just add time to the beginning or to the end. There are 3 main parts to this dish. There's the cake, the cream cheese layer, and then the crumble topping. So this is a little more complicated than what we've tried in the past, but in my opinion, the results are worth taking a little extra time. So first, the cake. In order to save some of that time, I've already gone ahead and combined the dry ingredients together. So in this, you want to put 1.5 cups flour, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 2.5 teaspoons baking soda, 3/4 cup packed brown sugar, and finally, this is kind of the strange one, 2 tablespoons of lime zest. So I've already put most of that in there, but I left just a little bit out because I wanted to tell you something about lime zest. When it calls for lime zest or lemon zest in a recipe, what it's actually asking for is scrapings of the outer peel of the fruit. So in our case, with the lime zest, you get a tool called a zester, and you just gently scrape it along the outside edge of the lemon or the lime. It can be kind of tricky if you're working with a small fruit like I am, that you don't end up scraping off hunks of your skin with it, but that'll pretty much do the trick. And the thing with zesting that you want to know is you're trying just to get that green color off, or the yellow color if it's a lemon, but you don't want to dig too deep into the white part of the fruit. That pith is really bitter. You just want these beautiful green outer scrapings. So then you turn it over your bowl, shake it in. If you want to be really thorough, you can take a knife, scrape it, get all the extra goodness in there. But that will add a nice little citrus zest to your cake. And that was 2 tablespoons that I put in there. So we're gonna count all that as dry ingredients and set it to the side and move on to our wet ingredients. You want to melt butter. Let me give the amount. 1/3 cup butter, melted in a microwave safe bowl and then slightly cooled. And the reason you're gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes and cool down just a tiny bit is that the next ingredient you're going to put in is an egg, and nobody wants scrambled egg in this recipe. Follow that egg up with 1/2 cup milk and a teaspoon vanilla and mix until combined. It actually, in my experience, comes out kind of an unpleasant texture, kind of like a porridge when that milk meets the butter. But once it's all combined inside our cake, it's not gonna matter. So there's mine right there. Don't be alarmed if you see some chunks. Everything will melt out in the end. All right, let me set that away. Now it's time to mix the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Here's my wet, and into my dry. And then I'm just gonna do this the old-fashioned way today. I'm gonna use a whisk to combine these. Might make kind of a thick batter. In fact, whisk is probably not gonna be the best choice because this is, until I add the berries, it's coming out really thick. So I'm gonna switch it up and use a wooden spoon instead. Whisks are great for combining liquid like I had it in the wet ingredients, but sometimes recipes that are thick don't do so well with a whisk. So I'm just gonna take my grandma style wooden spoon, mix this up real good here. The spoon was actually made for me by my brother, Reed, for my birthday. He makes cool things out of wood, so I'm happy to have it. All right. As you can see, there's really kind of almost like a cookie dough texture forming there. It's really a thick batter. One thing about homemade cake mixes versus the store-bought kind is you really tend to get a lot more thickness and denseness in there. All right, next step after we've combined all those things is to gently fold in 1 pint blackberries, which as I told you was about 2.5 cups. These are the ones you saw me pick this afternoon. I've been storing them in the refrigerator so that they would stay as fresh as possible. And the recipe says that I should gently fold them in. When a recipe asks you to fold something, it means they want you to combine it slowly and with care. So this is where I might need my, there we go. I'm gonna use a spatula because this is a very, very thick batter. I don't want to beat the berries to death while I'm mixing them in. So I'm just gonna gently, this is the part that's gonna take a minute. Move those around. Folding is just kind of a slow stirring process. I need some new tools. Someone needs to put this on my Christmas list. This batter was so thick that it actually broke my spatula right in half. Fortunately, I have another one. So I think this one hasn't been melt damaged. I have a tendency to occasionally leave things on the stove. They're closer than they should be. Set that out of the way. All right, we'll go back to folding our berries in. We don't need to mix these 100%. We don't want to turn our batter purple. We like that firm berry look, but we do want to make sure that it's getting spread throughout the batter. All right. Once you're happy with that, it's time to scrape the batter into the prepared pan. So let's go ahead and do that. See some of that purple color's getting in there just a little bit. Okay, now that I've got it in the pan, just going to use my spatula to sort of gently nudge it around and make sure that it's covering the entire surface, because I'm going to add a couple more layers, and I do need this to spread out and bake evenly. All right, almost there. My little spring foam here. One thing that helps you when you're spreading out, if you take your spatula and just press it against the edges a little bit, kind of this sort of a motion, it'll attach it to the edges, hold things in place. All right, when you're done, you should have something that looks roughly like this. A nice thick batter swirled with blackberries. So I'm gonna set that aside for just a second and move on to the cream cheese layer. Maybe I should have told you at the beginning of the recipe, but I'll make a note of it on the written recipe. You need to set your cream cheese out, your 8-ounce brick of cream cheese out until it comes up to room temperature. So however long that takes, depending on how warm your house is, but you're going to be beating it. You put the brick of cream cheese in, you beat it with your mixer until it's got a really kind of smooth, creamy consistency. And then you add 1 egg and 2 tablespoons sugar. I've already gone ahead and combined that. So now you can see I have a really kind of droopy frosting-like consistency to my cream cheese layer. And I need to spread this all over the top of my blackberry batter. So I think it's easier to do that if you sort of pick little plops and put them all around your pan rather than a great big one in the middle. You have to disturb the batter less, but that's just my preferred way of doing it. All right, let's get a nice big plop of this in the middle. This is my favorite layer, by the way. I love anything with cream cheese in it. So good. All right, okay. So then I'm just very gently going to spread cream cheese layer clear over the top of this. All right. You may wonder why this is called Blackberry Breakfast Cake. It's got a crumble topping like a lot of your coffee cakes or Danish pastry cakes will do, but I think that it just goes particularly well with a breakfast meal, although in truth, I like to have a slice with my lunch, definitely as dessert after dinner. It's a very versatile thing. All right, again, doesn't have to be perfect, just get good coverage throughout that. And then you're ready to move on to the crumble topping. The crumble topping is just 1/2 cup flour, 1/2 cup brown sugar, 1/2 teaspoon cinnamon, and then you take a 1/4 cup of butter. I soften mine just a tiny bit by letting it sit out for about 15 minutes. And then you blend it in using a fork or a pastry blender, which is what I have here. If you're familiar with this tool, it's really great. I've already mixed up the dry ingredients. And now I'm just breaking down the little cubes of butter I put in there and spreading them throughout the streusel mixture. Because it's those little packets of butter that when they're cooking in the oven make everything crispy. So I want to have a good distribution on top of my cake. I don't want too much of one in one spot. All right. Okay, so I'll show you that. It's going to get kind of just sort of crumbly looking. And then to finish up, you just sprinkle that evenly, this out of the way, over the top of the cake. And I just usually do it right from the bowl. Kind of go around, do the edges first because they're the ones that occasionally get missed. And then shake it up again to keep things moving. This particular recipe makes a lot of crumble topping, which I love. So you won't have to spread it too thin. There's going to be plenty. See, I'm still shaking even now. A little bit more on that edge maybe. Okay. There you have it. This is Blackberry Breakfast Cake. I'm going to bake this for 35 to 45 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean. Excuse me. Really 40 minutes in most ovens comes out just about right, but somewhere between 35 and 45 depending on how hot your oven cooks. When it comes out of the oven, cool it for 15 to 20 minutes before removing it from the pan. Now I've got a spring foam, so when I unlatch this outer edge is going to open up a little bit and leave my cake standing to cool off. So, but if you just have a regular cake pan, that's fine. You wait a few minutes till it cools. When baked goods cool, they begin to contract a little bit and pull away from their pan, and that's what allows you to turn something out after it's cooled down a little bit. So either way you decided to do it should be just fine. This Blackberry Breakfast Cake is best served the same day, but it will keep for about 3 days. Just cover it up, put it in the refrigerator if you want to, but I hope you'll enjoy it. It's really an excellent recipe. Before I say goodbye, I do need to do one more thing, however. I need to draw names for the 2 zucchini summer casserole bakes that I made last week. I said that if anyone went on our Facebook page and liked our post or made a comment that I would put their name into a drawing. So I have 2 of those to give away this week, and I have all the names in here. So the first person to receive a casserole is Linda Lint. Fantastic. All right, thank you for going to check that out and giving us a like, Linda. And then we'll look at these. So the other one is Cassandra Doty. So Linda and Cassandra, I will be contacting you to make arrangements to deliver your casserole this week at a time that is convenient for you. Hope you enjoy. Happy cooking.